There are things you should never bring home from your travels, things that carry more than dust and memory. In Bangkok's sprawling night market, between sizzling woks and stalls of cheap silk, there's a vendor who sells a particular, good luck, doll. It looks harmless, glassy eyes, baby soft cheeks, a bracelet of red thread around its wrist. Tourists pose with it, laugh at its chubby smile, and talk about the deals they made that day. But locals glance away. They do not stop. They do not touch. They say the doll is not a doll. They say it is a seat, a small chair for a child who died before the prayers were finished. If you buy it at dusk, if you tuck it into your luggage while the market lights flicker and the incense smoke curls too thick, it will follow you home. It will sit in your house as if it has always lived there. And at night, you will hear footsteps too light for any living person. You will smell warm milk and burnt sugar. And when you wake, you will find tiny handprints on the mirror, drawn from the inside. This is the story of why you must not bring home that item from Thailand. Our story follows Sarah Collins, a 28-year-old travel blogger from London. Her life looked glamorous from the outside. Photos of beaches, markets, temples, and five-star meals filled her Instagram feed. But behind the filters, Sarah was driven by something deeper than likes or sponsorships. She had always chased stories, legends, oddities, places that promised a taste of the mysterious. Thailand was supposed to be a quick stop. Another series of posts about street food and floating markets. She stayed in a modest guest house in Bangkok, spending her days hopping between temples and bustling night bazaars. The colors overwhelmed her, neon lights flashing against golden shrines, the hum of motorbikes weaving through food stalls, the perfume of grilled satay mixed with incense smoke. On her third evening, she wandered into a quieter corner of the Chatuchak market. Away from the crowds, there, under a flickering bulb, sat a woman selling handmade trinkets, amulets, bracelets, tiny dolls. Sarah stopped, intrigued. One doll in particular caught her eye. It was small, porcelain, with impossibly lifelike features, plump cheeks, glassy black eyes, and a red thread tied around its wrist. Unlike the other stalls, no one else lingered here. Locals walked past quickly, eyes averted. The vendor smiled at Sarah, her teeth yellow in the dim light. "Good luck," she whispered in broken English, pushing the doll toward her. "Take home, take care. It will take care of you." Sarah hesitated, amused by the eerie theatrics. She had heard of Thai spirit dolls before, though she assumed they were just tourist gimmicks. The price was absurdly cheap, less than the cost of a meal. Without thinking much, she paid and slipped the doll into her bag, already planning a video about spooky souvenirs. As she walked back through the noisy market, she didn't notice how the air had grown cooler around her. She didn't see the vendor bow her head as Sarah left, lips moving in a prayer Sarah could not understand. She thought she had bought a trinket, a harmless keepsake, but in truth, she had just invited something else into her life. Sarah returned to her guest house late that night, exhausted but satisfied with the day's adventures. She placed her shopping bags on the desk, barely glancing at the porcelain doll nestled between scarves and snacks. It looked oddly out of place among the clutter, its black glass eyes reflecting the weak light of the lamp. With a laugh, she propped it against the wall and snapped a photo for her story. "Creepy Thai souvenir. What do you think?" That night, she slept lightly. The street outside buzzed with traffic, voices echoing through the thin walls. Yet somewhere in the haze of half-dream, she thought she heard something different, a soft shuffle across the tile floor, like small bare feet. Once, she swore she heard the quiet rattle of the desk chair. Each time she jolted awake, the room was silent, the doll still sitting upright against the wall. The next morning, her phone startled her. She had posted only one photo of the doll, but overnight it had somehow uploaded several more, blurry, dimly lit shots of the room at strange angles. One looked like it had been taken from the corner of the ceiling, aimed directly at her sleeping form. Sarah laughed nervously, convincing herself it was a glitch. She deleted the images quickly and hurried out for breakfast, leaving the doll on the desk. But when she returned in the evening, something was different. The doll was no longer propped against the wall. It sat upright in the middle of her pillow. Facing the door, Sarah froze, staring at it. She replayed her morning routine in her mind. She was certain she hadn't touched it. Still, she forced herself to smile, muttering, "Housekeeping must have moved it." Yet when she asked the cleaner the next day, the woman's expression darkened. "No touch," she said firmly, shaking her head. "Not me, not anyone." Then she walked away quickly, avoiding Sarah's gaze. That night, the phenomena escalated. As Sarah prepared for bed, she heard a faint tapping sound, irregular but steady. She followed the noise to the bathroom mirror. Her breath caught. The glass was fogged, though the room was cool and dry. Across the surface, faint smudges appeared, tiny handprints, too small to belong to any adult. She stumbled back, heart racing. "It's just condensation," she whispered, though the explanation rang hollow. She wiped the glass clean, forcing herself not to look at the doll still perched on the bed. Sleep was impossible. Every time her eyes closed, new sounds dragged her awake. A child's giggle, light and fleeting, the soft creak of the desk chair, the rustle of fabric as though someone was climbing onto the mattress beside her. She turned on the lamp at 3 a.m., trembling. The doll had shifted again, its body angled toward her, its red-threaded wrist resting lightly against her blanket. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another notification. She opened the gallery with dread. More photos had appeared, grainy images of her sleeping. Taken closer this time. In one, a small pale hand seemed to reach toward her face. Her skin went cold. She threw the phone aside and grabbed the doll, shoving it back into her bag, hiding it beneath clothes. She sat on the bed until dawn, eyes fixed on the bag, waiting for it to move. By morning, she tried to rationalize. Jet lag, stress, a vivid imagination. But beneath the surface, fear gnawed at her. She had traveled for years, visited haunted places and bought bizarre trinkets, but never had something followed her like this. She should have listened to the silence of the market, to the way the locals had turned away from that stall. The doll was no souvenir. It was an invitation. By her 5th day in Bangkok, Sarah was fraying at the edges. She hadn't slept more than an hour at a time. Every night the sounds returned, the giggles, the patter of bare feet, the weight dipping her mattress as if a child climbed onto it. She had stopped posting updates altogether. Her followers wondered why she'd gone quiet. She decided it would end the moment she left Thailand. "It's just this room," she told herself. "Once I'm home, I'll be fine." She stuffed the doll deep into her suitcase. Beneath layers of clothes, as if burying it, the plastic face stared blankly upward until the zipper sealed it shut. That night, she booked an early flight for the next morning. But sleep didn't come. Hours before dawn, her phone lit up. Another photo had appeared, this time not of her room. It was a shot of the suitcase, unzipped, the doll sitting upright on top of her clothes. Sarah's stomach twisted. She staggered to the suitcase. The zipper was still shut. She pulled it open with shaking hands. The doll lay where she had left it, motionless. Her hands trembled as she zipped the suitcase again, locking it with a flimsy travel clasp. She sat awake until the alarm rang for her flight. At the airport, exhaustion dulled her panic. She checked her bag and moved toward the gate, feeling relief for the first time in days. But just before boarding, she noticed something strange. Families waiting nearby gave her sidelong looks, whispering to each other. She glanced down at her carry-on. The zipper had slid open halfway, though she hadn't touched it. From inside, a faint smell drifted out, sweet, like burnt sugar and warm milk. Her flight to London lasted 12 hours. She dozed uneasily, waking often. Once, she thought she heard the faint scrape of plastic against fabric beneath her seat. Another time, the overhead light above her flickered though no one else's did. A flight attendant stopped at her row, glancing at her with visible unease before hurrying away. When she landed, she felt only desperation to reach home. At baggage claim, her suitcase slid down the belt. The lock was gone. She opened it quickly in the corner. Her clothes were in disarray, scattered as if rifled through by small hands. The doll sat neatly on top. Her flat in London was small but cozy. the kind of place she had always described online as my safe corner. That first night home, she unpacked with trembling fingers. She placed the doll on the kitchen table, planning to throw it out in the morning. But she didn't. Something in her resisted. The vendor's words replayed in her mind. Take care of it. It will take care of you. She tried to sleep. At 2 a.m., the smell returned, warm milk, sweet and sour, so strong it filled every room. Sarah gagged, pulling the blanket over her face. Then came the sound. Faint scratching on the floorboards. Moving closer to her bed, she froze, heart hammering, as the mattress dipped once, twice, under a weight too small to be her own. She forced her eyes shut. Seconds stretched like hours. Then a voice whispered, soft, childish, right beside her ear. Mommy. Her scream tore the silence. She bolted upright. The room was empty, but the doll sat on the floor at the foot of her bed, its black eyes glinting in the glow of the streetlight through the curtains. She had left it in the kitchen. The next morning, she carried it outside, wrapping it in a plastic bag and stuffing it into the dumpster down the street. Relief surged as she walked away. But that night, when she returned from the grocery store, she found it sitting on her doorstep, the red thread around its wrist frayed and damp, as if it had clawed its way back. Her neighbors whispered now, eyes darting away when she passed. One evening, the woman across the hall murmured, "You shouldn't have taken it. You have to give it back." Sarah demanded to know what she meant, but the woman only shook her head. Retreating into her flat, Sarah realized then, the doll wasn't attached to Thailand. It was attached to her, and she had brought it home. Sarah could no longer dismiss the truth. The doll wasn't just following her, it was alive with something. Or someone. The fear gnawed at her until finally she sought answers the only way she knew how. She dove into research. She spent long nights scrolling through forums about Thai folklore, urban legends, and cursed objects. Most were riddled with superstition. But one term surfaced again and again, Kuman Thong. According to legend, Kuman Thong, literally, golden boy, were spirit dolls believed to house the souls of children who had died prematurely. Centuries ago, they were created through rituals so dark they were banned. But even today, whispers claimed that certain vendors in Thailand still sold them. Owners were meant to feed the dolls, clothe them, and speak to them like living children. In return, the spirits would grant wealth, protection, or guidance. But if neglected, the dolls would turn, bringing misfortune and death. Sarah's stomach twisted as she read. The description matched her doll exactly, lifelike features. Red thread around the wrist, the smell of milk, and the warnings were consistent. Never take one home unless you are prepared to care for it forever. She closed the laptop with trembling hands. I didn't agree to this, she whispered, but deep down, she knew she had, the moment she handed over money at the market stall. The bond was sealed, determined to rid herself of it. Sarah called a Thai friend she had met years ago during her travels. She explained everything in a rush, the photos, the noises, the smell, the way the doll kept returning. Silence lingered on the other end before her friend finally spoke. You shouldn't have bought it. The voice said softly, it is not just a doll. It is a home for a spirit. If you try to throw it away, it will come back. If you destroy it, the spirit will punish you. The only way is to return it back to where it belongs. Sarah's hands shook. Return it? To Thailand? Yes. To the shrine, or to the river. But you must perform the offering. Milk, sweets, incense. Ask permission. Only then will it leave you. The call ended, leaving Sarah cold. She looked toward the living room where the doll now sat on the couch, its head tilted slightly, as if it had been listening. That night, the dreams came. She dreamed of a child, a boy no older than 6. His skin pale, his eyes wide and black. He stood at the foot of her bed, whispering in Thai words she didn't understand. When she woke, the smell of incense filled the air, and the doll was sitting on her nightstand, closer than ever before. Sarah realized she had 2 choices: keep pretending this was coincidence until it consumed her, or face the truth, that the doll was not just an object, but a vessel, and the boy inside it was waiting. Sarah spent the next 2 days in a haze of dread. She barely ate, barely slept. The doll seemed to move whenever she turned her back. Sometimes she'd leave it in the living room only to find it later perched on her desk. Once, she caught it sitting upright on her bed, its tiny hands resting neatly on her pillow, waiting. Her friend's words echoed endlessly, "You must return it," with offerings. But how could she? Flying back to Thailand was impossible on such short notice. And even if she could, what shrine, what river, which place would accept the spirit? The longer she delayed, the worse the nights became. On the third night, she awoke to the smell of milk so strong it curdled her stomach. Her blanket tugged downward as though someone small was climbing onto the bed. She froze. The mattress dipped beside her, weight pressing the springs. A child's breath whispered against her cheek. "Mommy!" Sarah screamed, scrambling for the lamp. The light revealed nothing but the doll, sitting inches from her face, its eyes reflecting gold in the glow. The red thread around its wrist looked frayed, as though worn down by struggling hands. Shaking, Sarah grabbed the doll and locked it in a cabinet. She stacked books against the door, convincing herself it would hold until morning. She collapsed on the couch, trying to stay awake, but at dawn, when she opened her eyes, the cabinet door stood wide open. The books lay scattered across the floor. The doll sat calmly on the coffee table, its head tilted in the exact same angle as when she'd screamed the night before. Something inside her broke. She couldn't wait anymore. She searched online for rituals, anything that might work outside of Thailand. Most instructions were vague, contradictory, or deliberately frightening. Still, she pieced together a plan. Offerings of sweet milk, candy, incense, speak aloud, ask permission for the spirit to leave. That evening, she set everything on the table. A bowl of milk, a plate of sweets, 3 sticks of incense glowing faintly in the dark. The doll sat in front of her, its face blank, but the air around it heavy, watchful. Her voice shook as she began. I didn't know what I was taking. I didn't mean to disturb you. I offer you this. Please, take it, and leave me." The incense smoke curled thick, almost suffocating. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the room temperature dropped sharply, her breath visible in the air. The milk rippled as if something unseen had dipped a hand into it. The doll's head turned, slowly, deliberately, toward her. Its lips, painted faintly pink, seemed to part. A whisper slid across the room. "Don't leave me." Sarah's chest clenched. "I can't care for you. You don't belong here. You must go home." The lights flickered violently. The plate of sweets rattled across the table. Then, standing in the corner of the room, she saw him, the boy from her dream. No older than 6, thin, pale, eyes black and endless. His small hands hung at his sides. Trembling, he stepped forward, leaving no sound on the floorboards. Sarah gasped, tears burning her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I can't be your mother." The boy tilted his head. His lips curved into a faint smile that never reached his eyes. Then, without warning, every candle and lamp in the flat extinguished. Darkness swallowed her. She heard footsteps circling her, light but fast, the scampering of a child running loops around the table. Giggles burst out, sharp and broken. Objects crashed to the floor, books, glasses, frames. Her phone lit up by itself, its camera clicking furiously. Flashes of light revealed glimpses. The boy crouched on the ceiling, the doll sitting on her chest, tiny handprints spreading across the walls. Sarah screamed, shoving the doll to the floor. She grabbed the incense and hurled it into the bowl of milk. Smoke erupted, choking the room. "Leave me," she cried, voice raw. "You are not mine. Go back to where you came from." For a moment, silence. Then, the boy's scream pierced the air, a sound of rage and sorrow bound together. The doll shattered, porcelain cracking into pieces across the floor. The child's figure dissolved into smoke, sucked back into the fragments. Sarah collapsed, coughing, body trembling. The flat was silent again. But as she looked down at the shattered doll, her relief faltered. Amid the fragments, one eye remained intact, glassy, black, and still watching her. Sarah didn't sleep that night. She sat on the floor until sunrise, staring at the fragments of porcelain scattered across her living room. The smell of milk had vanished, the air warmer now, but her skin still prickled as if watched. When the sun finally rose, she swept the pieces into a box, sealing it shut with tape, and carried it far from her flat. She left it at a riverbank on the edge of the city, whispering a clumsy apology before letting the box sink beneath the current. She stood there for a long time, convincing herself it was finished. The boy had screamed, the doll had shattered, the spirit had returned. For weeks, life almost felt normal again. She slept longer. She posted new travel photos. She even laughed, telling herself she had survived a story she'd never dare share publicly. But normal didn't last. One evening, Sarah returned home from the market to find her door ajar. She froze, heart pounding. Before stepping inside, the flat was quiet. Nothing looked disturbed, until she saw it. On her kitchen table sat a porcelain hand. Delicate fingers curled slightly, the red thread still tied around its tiny wrist. Her phone buzzed. A new photo had appeared in her gallery. She opened it with shaking hands. The image showed her asleep in bed, taken just minutes ago, and in the corner of the frame, a shadowed child's figure leaned close, its black eyes fixed directly on the lens. Sarah dropped the phone, her stomach hollowing with dread. She had tried to rid herself of it. She had crossed rivers, broken porcelain, burned incense, but the bond had never broken. Somewhere behind her, the floor creaked, soft, light footsteps, too small to belong to anyone living. Souvenirs are supposed to hold memories, snapshots of joy, pieces of culture carried home in a suitcase. But some objects carry more than history. They carry hunger, they carry grief, and they wait for someone naive enough to mistake them for toys. In Thailand, spirit dolls are not curiosities. They are vessels. They are homes for the restless souls of children who never reached adulthood. Children whose names faded before they could be remembered. To locals, they are not decorations but sacred responsibilities. To treat one casually, to buy one without reverence, is to invite something that does not forgive neglect. Sarah's mistake was simple. She believed it was just a trinket. She thought superstition was a story to spice up a video. But stories are warnings disguised as entertainment. Warnings passed down because someone, somewhere, once suffered enough to demand they be told. Perhaps that is the true horror here. Not the porcelain smile or the smell of milk. Not the sound of small feet in the night, but the realization that the world is layered with promises we do not understand. When we break them, we inherit the consequences. So when you travel, remember this. Not every gift is meant to be taken. Not every treasure is meant to leave its home. And if you ever find yourself holding a doll with glassy eyes and a red thread around its wrist, ask yourself, are you bringing it home? Or is it bringing you?